Good evening. I'd like to call to order Bloom Carroll Local School District Board of Education meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Abbott?
Present.
Mr. Bratton?
Present.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Present.
Mrs. Sherman?
Present.
Pledge of allegiance led by Mr. Thomas.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of agenda. We do have one change here,
We have an addendum on 9C30.
page 9 of your packet. C30. Can I get approval, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Jen Sherman and second by Mr. Bratton. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes. Number 5, approve the minutes from the April 11th, 2022 regular meeting. I did not see any changes.
I did not see that.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion made by Jimmy Johnson, second by Rod Johnson.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
All right, number 6, public participation. Do we have anybody?
Yeah.
We'll start with Scott Green.
Sorry, I hurt my hip earlier, so I'm kind of getting old. So I got two things. As you guys know, we moved here to this area for the school. You guys are great. I have stood behind you guys outside this building and prevented at least 2 people running against a couple of you guys. I think you guys are doing a good job. But I'd like to bring to your attention, one is one of the residents of Lithopolis came to me because her son was sent to the principal's office because he was making monkey sounds, and monkey sounds are racist. The kid's being obnoxious and being a jerk in class. Got it. Making animal sounds is not racism. And I think we can all come to that conclusion. By diluting what racism really is, when we actually see it, it's not going to be as impactful when we use that word racism. My second point is in the middle school, apparently it's okay for boys and girls to dress like the opposite gender and be called by different names that are not on their birth certificates. This is middle school. These kids are confused enough. I don't think it's right. Well, I know it's not right. Boys are boys, girls are girls. And by having teachers that enforce these bad behaviors on these confused children is even worse. Personally, I think the parents should be brought up for child abuse if they're encouraged into this home. That's my personal belief. I would really like to see that squashed. We don't live in San Francisco where there's a bunch of crazies running the place. This is Bloom Township. You know, we're normal, sane human beings here. I would really like that to be stopped. It's disruptive. My son personally had to turn his shirt inside out because it was disruptive per se. I think the teacher just didn't like what it was saying. Having a boy or girl dressed in opposite attire, be called some name that they're obviously not, plus being used pronouns. Kids barely know what pronouns are in middle school. That is way more disruptive than wearing a shirt that may say Trump or some other silly slogan. That's a real issue in the middle school that would be disruptive. I personally would like to see that stopped. If it doesn't, I can easily take my children out of the school. There's plenty of options now. And I really don't want to have to run for school board either, because I have no desire to. But let's fix this and bring sanity back to at least the middle school. I don't know what's happening to the high school because I'm not really in touch with there, and no one's actually told me anything crazy going on in high school. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, moving down to food service update with Marilyn Enyart. Hope I pronounced that right. Yep.
Well, it's been a tricky year for us this year due to our numbers being so high since everyone was free. We haven't had extra staff, we've had supply issues all year. Our new elementary started out a little tricky, but, we got it figured out pretty much, and, it's been running a lot smoother. Since all the students were free and our counts were higher, they had to work a new routine in that kitchen, and I just wanna say that our cooks have done a phenomenal job this year, and they just, all worked so hard, and they just been doing a really great job, and next year they'll be more efficient, and, we'll get that, elementary school figured out, over the summer a little bit better, so that we can run it a little better. Next year students won't be free as of now, they don't have a waiver anymore due to COVID, so it's gonna be, probably lesser counts, but, we're gonna have a lot of, kids starting next year. But, they do have a, chair in the Senate that's trying to pass another, extend the universal free meal, so that I'm hoping this, because it'll be easier for us. Trying not to get the kids to pay, we'll just have to wait and see, what happens with that. Another thing that's pending will be the meal pattern waiver. Right now, since supply issues, we don't have to follow it so close. We don't have to have everything whole grain and stuff like that. And, we've had to make a lot of changes due to the supply. We don't have the sufficient items needed to meet the nutrition standards, low sodium and all that stuff. I've kept it as close as possible. Like, for example, this morning, the 8th applesauce cup was finally in stock. I had to go through all that many just to be able to get an applesauce cup, so, I mean, it's been rough for everything all year. And I wanna say I appreciate a couple of you have come to our kitchen to see how we actually work, and, how well the girls are doing, and what they have to, do this. Like I said, our numbers are really high, so it's really been challenging this year. Due to the struggles and challenges that schools have had to face over the year, Food and Nutrition Service has provided $1 billion in relief funding. It's called the Supply Chain Assistance Funding, and they've provided, schools with a base amount of $5,000 plus $16.91 per student. And, we received a payment of $42,438. Did you see that?
Yeah, yes.
That's what that was from. We're trying to fill out something to get that, awarded to us, just to help with the higher cost of everything that we're having to do. I applied for a grant to get a fridge and freezer for the high school. We got that, so they're gonna be working on that, I think over the summer. When is that starting over the summer?
I think soon as school's out.
This year?
Yeah,
Okay, so
Yeah.
will it be in by the time?
That-
we come
that's
back,
the
or is it
plan.
on?
that's the
It's gonna
plan.
need to be.
Yeah.
No, I mean, well, yeah, right now they brought a big freezer over from the old
Partner,
primary
yeah.
school, so they got that for a little more room, cause with all this extra food we have to get, they didn't have more room, so it's not hooked up, but we have it, so. And, we have 3 cooks moving on to bigger and better things, and we will have some staff changes that I'm still working out by the time we get back next year. And I just wanna say that all of our food service staff has done a great job this year. They've worked through all these supply issues and had to compromise and change the menu, several times over the year. So we're looking forward to next year maybe being a little more close to normal.
Ms. Cindy, real quick, so next year, obviously, there's no waiver as of right now, and I know that they're trying to pass that to be able to universal free lunch. Do you anticipate the numbers we had when it wasn't free, that we would have from a cost perspective, that we would have to look at that because of the cost of goods now? And what was your percentages, if off the top of your head, if you knew how many were actually buying the lunch or out versus packing, like from K through 8?
That was 3 years ago, I don't really.
Yeah, I'm not asking, but I mean,
don't remember.
it's probably pretty, I would say probably around 60-40 maybe.
For
It's,
the high school, for example, maybe they were around 300 and they've been like 450 right now.
it's close to 50% pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
The last 3 years. And I think next year, a lot of people will start off doing what they've been doing, but then with the cost of everything else, it's going to hit their pocketbook, and they're gonna realize that, you know, they'll probably start packing lunch, not eating breakfast at school, eating breakfast at home. I would guess those numbers are gonna get back to closer to normal,
Yeah.
yeah.
But from a cost perspective, I mean, with everything it is, I mean, do you anticipate or do you think we'll have to increase by 50 cents
I
per
think
day?
where we're at right now.
I think where we're at, we'll be fine for a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah,
The reimbursement rate is so much higher than what we get from a paid lunch
Right.
that it's really set us up financially this year
Yeah,
for a couple of years.
yeah.
so we got that to carry over.
There's definitely, it's well in the black, so we should be okay in terms of not having to raise those prices at least for next year, and then we'll just monitor it
I agree.
from there.
And
Yeah.
I really shop around and try to find a good product for a cheaper price, so
Mhm.
I try really hard, so.
Marilyn, as far as the ordering, do you order once a week or is it every other week?
I order every week.
So
Like,
is
I
that-
put my orders in on Friday, and I spend most of Monday replacing a lot of those items. Like,
That they
that's what I
don't have.
did for hours today,
Right.
trying to find something to replace the pineapple,
Right, so that, for example, so you replace it on Monday, when do you get that product? Is it the
Wednesday.
following? Oh, okay.
Wednesday. Today's the last day to order for
Right.
Wednesday, so.
Well, good job. Keep
Yeah.
it
Marilyn, I
Keep
just
it
want to
up.
say thanks for letting us come in. It was eye-opening, and the ladies were so gracious and efficient. So that was, we appreciated the visit. I know Rod and I did. And I do want to say too, with the struggles in the elementary school, I mean, that's half our district. So I think your staff needs to be commended, because that's 6 grades in one building.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the
They're-
routine and the flow and the logistics of that. So
Yeah.
please pass on the kudos to them, because it's really impressive.
I will, and we had a teacher come to us the other day that in the high school, they were saying something about the teacher, or, I mean, one of my cooks, how she knows that this one kid is gluten-free, so she was like, or no, he was vegetarian, I'm sorry, he's vegetarian. So she made sure that she made some of the lasagna without the meat for him, and he was just so excited, and they were just talking about how nice the cooks are, you know, so that was good to hear as well,
That's great.
but,
And obviously too, you know, after we met with you, I mean, if you guys need anything, let us know,
okay,
obviously,
all right, thank
appreciate
you.
it, thank
Yeah.
you.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you very much. All right, Technology Department, Mr. Mark Thomas.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I left you all some information there. So this is the first year we moved down to one-to-one, both high school, middle school. So we had some discussion last year about, wonder what the damage claims would be in the middle school this year. So I broke this down for you. So so these are, so total damage claims. This would be broken screens, broken keyboards, broken chassis, stuff like that. We only had 121. We had about 1,300 devices, just grades 6 through 12. Of those 121, 88 were non-insurance. So we offered that protection plan of $20 parents per year, gives them two free repairs per year. There were 88 of those claims. Of those 88, only one used it twice. Okay, so that would be 33 non-insured. Of those 33, we charge the parent the cost of the part. We do not charge for labor. We get a price list nearly every week, and then that's what we charge them. So if screens drop, that's what we charge. Of those, 22 have been paid. Only 11 have not been paid as of this date. So we'll invoice them again at the end of the year. Of those, 86 were middle school, and you can see the breakdown there. 35 were high school. And as you see, as you kind of go up in grades, the numbers start decreasing until you hit freshmen, and then they go back up a little bit. But then you can see seniors, we had 0. So, as I said, this does not account for machine malfunction. So, our chargers are still under warranty, so if the charger is defective, we do not charge the family for that. We don't count it against the child's on their insurance either. If a keyboard is bad, or we deem it's bad, or the screen goes dark, that is on us. We have a fund set aside that we build those repairs in, so we take care of those. So I think it's pretty good. Only 121 damage claims out of over 1,300 devices. I think that's pretty impressive. So most of the damage we see are broken screens. Kids in the smaller grades, they put them in their backpacks. they fling their backpacks down. You know, it doesn't take much for a screen on a Chromebook to damage. So, we try to get them repaired. We turn those repairs around the same day. So we get something in, my guys will have a screen repair within 15 minutes, a keyboard repair within 10 minutes. So we whip them out very quickly. So they're not like they're sitting in our office for multiple days, with the exception of something that we need to send back. And if that's the case, we give that child a long-term loaner out of our stock that we have. But if it's not something in that position, we just send them to get a loaner from the library. They pick it up for the day, we give it back, usually the same day. So, my guys can usually pump those things out very quick. So, the next sheet is kind of our metrics that we give you every year. Our team performance, and then the work summary. So you can see our response time and our resolution time went up. I think exponentially this year. This is primarily due to supply chain issues. You know, a lot of these are toner related. We have an enormous problem with supply chain issues with toner. We have it ironed out now with the vendor. We have an ample stock of toner. Other things that we run into supply chain issues on laptops are keyboards and screens, batteries, any kind of hardware-based stuff on those devices is really hard to come by, and they are at a premium cost. So we spend time trying to source that to get the lowest cost that we can. So that's why those numbers are a little higher than what you normally see. It's primarily due to the supply chain issues. It's also due to just the increased number of devices and the manpower that we have. So if you've got 1,300 devices that you introduce into your fleet, that's a lot more for those guys to handle. So you're naturally going to see that rise a little bit. There were about 1,400 work orders. So keep in mind, this is not Chromebook related. So these 1,400 would be copier repairs, teacher devices, Clever Touch, teacher laptops, audio-visual, stuff like that. So this we keep separate from our Chromebooks. Our Chromebooks are handled in a completely different fashion. So about 1,400 claims this year that people put in work orders for. All but 2 were really considered on time, and so by on time, it could be, depending on the severity, it could go from 1 to 5 days. That is determined how it's on time or not. We have a metrics that we follow that stuff is more emergent than other things, so it can kind of take more of a back seat. If it doesn't impact classroom instruction at that very moment, it can sort of take a back seat to something that does have a direct impact on that instruction. So that's kind of how we measure that stuff. So you can see the tickets that were assigned by each of the users, and then you can see how they were resolved on that next page. That's on the team performance. On the work summary, kind of gives you a breakdown. 85% were completed on time. There was like 14% that were considered overdue. You flip all the way to the third page, and this is on the work summary, you'll sort of see that breakdown, whether it's account related, audio-visual, Chromebook issues. And so keep in mind, there are some Chromebook issues on here because we have Chromebooks K-5. So every classroom K-5 has 30 Chromebooks in their classroom. So those are not treated like the one-to-one. So those are treated just as a classroom device. And so that's why you do see some Chromebook things on there. There's some copier issues, software issues, unblocked websites, things like that. So that kind of gives you an idea of what our department makeup looks like throughout the year. 1,400 different tickets. That's not tremendous given the amount of devices that we support. We estimate we probably support about 5,000 different types of devices, from clever touchboards to phones to access control to laptops, printers, different things like that. So we handle a wide range of stuff. So.
How many people do you have work with you?
2.5. I have 2 full-time guys. I have 1 half-time person.
Getting it done.
Is there a reason you're completing so many less work orders than time?
Delegate.
They just trump me. What can I say?
No, good job. Really, you guys did a
Good job.
Thank you very much.
That's great.
Thank you
so
for
much.
sharing with us.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, moving right along to number 7, treasurer's recommendations and reports.
Okay, item A is approve the April financial statements, total expense of $12,929,652.82, including $9.9 million in the consortium. Just quickly here, with the amount of things we have on the agenda, item A, page 21 with the executive summary. The final income tax collection for fiscal '22 was received in April, and again, this was really saved this year with the public utility drop that I talked about, our purchase services and our supplies that have went up. The income taxes has really been a savior here. As you can see, total collected for the year up a little over 16.3%, which is it's obviously a good indication of the economic wealth or the fiscal health of the district and its residents. The withholdings, the second line there, a little over 11.2%. So again, obviously we were not projecting that, and that's helped us to fill in some of those gaps created by the things that I've talked about throughout the year. So 2 months left in the fiscal year. We're just we're trying to get to the finish line here and really looking at every single requisition that comes through to determine which fiscal year we want it to go through. You can see the current carryover there at the bottom. That'll drop these last 2 months without a lot of revenue coming in. So any questions on the April financial statements or the
Is
checks?
there any resolution on that, the company
There-
that challenged?
There has not been as of yet. All of the treasurers are in
Waiting.
constant contact with the county auditor, and they know it's a big issue. So
Anybody else? Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Joe Abbott, second by Mr. Rod Johnson.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, item B is approve an updated 5-year forecast for fiscal years 22 through 26 and submit to the Ohio Department of Education. Page 36 of your packet is the executive summary. And really, quite frankly, this looks very similar to the way it did in November. We might not have gotten to this point exactly the way we thought we would, again, with some of those changes I've talked about. But this year and next year, again, very close to an operating surplus. Feel comfortable with that. But again, we don't know anything 24, 25, 26 in terms of the fair school funding plan, if that's going to be extended beyond next year. Right now, it's only written into the law for 2 years. If they do continue with that phase-in funding plan, this will look a lot different. But right now, I do not have it included in beginning with 24, so it's basically flatline. That's really the biggest thing, along with some of those other topics that we've talked about. Pages 38 through 50 are required notes for each line item in the forecast. That way, and I'll post all this online pending approval tomorrow, but that way if you do see any fluctuations, and hopefully you can kind of go to that note and it should be explained within the notes. And then page, what I normally like to include from an accountability standpoint on page 51, so the print's a little bit small, but again, we're not just throwing numbers up here. It's want to have accountability from one forecast to the other. So you can see in the 22 column exactly what's changed from the November forecast. And again, if it shouldn't come as a surprise. If it is, then I'm not doing a good enough job communicating throughout the year. So hopefully, again, we talked about the public utility drop. The income taxes covered that. And we talked about purchase services and supplies that were just really unforeseen. But when you get down to the bottom line, it's real close to kind of what we had in November. Again, maybe not got there exactly the way we thought we would, but we're there nonetheless. So again, went through that kind of fast. I'll be glad to go into it in more detail if we want to look at it maybe at a work session or whatnot. But again, it will be posted online, and certainly welcome any questions, even if it's not during this meeting on the forecast.
Travis, how did you come up with that 77,000 across based off of what we found out from the public utility?
Well, the 313 is basically what we lost this year,
Right.
plus the values decreased anyway
Okay.
in January, which I was not necessarily anticipating. And I did not put that back in, so I basically flatlined it with a little bit of a decrease going forward. So again, when and if they pay on the appealed value, we'll be able to completely add it into
Right.
the forecast. So.
All I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Jimmy Johnson, second by Joe Abbott.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Item C is approve the classified pay index and changes to the pay column assignments as presented, effective July 1st, 2022. Page 52, we have a couple of positions that we are shifting or recommending to shift. You can see the base amount increase on the top of each pay scale, which is in line with the teacher raises for next year. We have moved a couple of the columns up a little bit to be commensurate with the job descriptions and what we expect of those individuals. I had a lengthy meeting with our finance committee, Mr. Bratton and Mr. Rod Johnson, before the April meeting to go through this in great detail as part of their function of the finance committee. And I don't know if you two want to add to this, but without putting words in your mouth, I believe you're both in support of this and would recommend it to the rest of the board as well. So any questions on the increase? Again, some of these will hit in July, some in August, some in September, just depending on the various columns and when they start their new contract.
Sounds good. Can I get a motion, please?
So, second.
Motion made by Rod Johnson, second by Mr. Matt Bratton.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Item D is approve the administrative salary index effective August 1 of '22. This index is just a simple increase to the base, same percentage as classified and teaching staff. There's no changes, no steps, no changes, no classification changes, so.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Second.
Motion made by Jimmy Johnson, second by Joe Abbott.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Approve increasing the hourly, item E, approve increasing the hourly rate for van drivers from $16.23 per hour to $16.64 per hour. Also a 2.5% increase effective with the 22-23 school year.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Joe Abbott, second by Mr. Matt Bratton.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Item F is approve the bus bid from Rush Bus Centers for the outright purchase of one 78-passenger conventional bus at a cost of $90,211. I did include the specs in here for you. This is through the meta bid that you approved us participating in a few months ago. Hopefully, we're going to get this in July again, like anything else that you've heard, food service and technology. The supply is low for everything right now, but
Will this be an extra one, or?
it will be, yes. It will be, we got rid of two that were not drivable, that were not on any routes anyway, so this will be an additional bus to add to our fleet.
I'll make the motion. Second.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Mr. Bratton.
Mr. Bratton made the motion, second by Rod Johnson.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
G is approve the following fund-to-fund transfer from the general fund to our debt service energy conservation, $4,400 to make our semi-annual debt payment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Abbott, second by Jim Sherman.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
And Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
And finally, letter H is approve the following increases to the insurance premiums effective July 1st, 2022 for medical, 4.22% increase, and you can see what that translates in to additionally out of an individual's check per month. In dental, 2.22% increase. I put a summary in here on page 61. Really tried to kind of color code it. There's a lot going on here, but just the yellow again is what the increase is and what the employees are going to pay more per month. So if you divide that by 2, that's what you'll see. That's what they'll see additional out of each paycheck. The green, we were actually looking at closer to a 5% increase, so it was pretty close. A little bit of a savings there, based on not having quite a 5% increase. And then in the blue, I think it's important just to know that it's so volatile when people sign up for insurance or drop it or sign up halfway through the year. The board for a family plan pays over $26,000 a year, and that's pretty standard. I mean, that's not a real shock in terms of what other districts are paying, but that can add up or save you depending on how things change throughout the year. You can see we have 151, line 11 of 201 that are eligible, so the majority of our staff is on the insurance, which is a good thing. We're able to provide that. So, any questions on the proposed medical and dental rate increases?
I don't believe so. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion made by Jimmy Johnson, seconded by Jen Sherman.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
And Mr. Rod Johnson? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biggin. Number 8, old business. A, approve the following policy for a second reading, presented as 1 through 23, please.
So moved.
Second. Oh,
Motion made by Joe Abbott, seconded by Jen Sherman.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson? And Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes. Number 9, superintendent's recommendations and reports. Mr. Hahn.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to recognize our staff. Obviously, last week was National Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. A lot of little goodies and things were done throughout the course of the week at the building level and for different departments. But our staff has done a tremendous job this year, and just wanted to express our appreciation for all of them. There was an art show that took place. I wanted to thank the PTO for sponsoring the elementary school art show and 5th grade music concert. There were a lot of volunteers there. I saw a lot of you there. But teachers, administrators, volunteers, it was a really good event. It was well attended. I think the weather worked out fairly well. It was a little cool, but it was dry. And they had food trucks there, a lot of neat art displays throughout the hallways. The display cases at the new elementary school worked out really well. They had a silent auction, just raised a lot of funds that will go back to our programs that the PTO allocates for our students and staff members. So it was really nice to see. There are some concerts coming up on May 11th. I believe there's a 6th grade concert at 7 p.m., choir concert. And May 17th as well, grades 7 through 12 has a choir concert. The jazz band and some of the other bands also performed on May 1st. We had the Swing and Scoops concert, which was really nice as well. Just wanted to, even though it's on the agenda, just really wanted to thank the Fairfield County Commissioners and their administrator who has worked with us on the Brownfield program application. This is I suspect we're going to get the grant. It's not guaranteed, but for the county to step up and partner with us, they had to be the unit of local government. We couldn't apply for that directly, but we could do it through partnership with them. And we'll see if we get awarded that grant here in the next couple months. But I just wanted to thank the county commissioners. We had a Bassa Regional meeting and got some legislative updates. The new Ohio School Report Card for the 21-22 school year should be published sometime in September. It's changing the rating system to a 1 to 5 star, with 5 star being very good. There are 5 components, which will include achievement, progress, gap closing, early literacy, and graduation. The one thing that could impact, I feel like ODE works really hard to try to bring up the schools that are struggling, the school districts up to the middle, and the schools that are performing really well, kind of bring them back so they can say everybody's right where they would like to see them. But one thing they're no longer going to include will be the indicators met. They're 20 plus indicators, and if you have your students scoring proficient or meeting that target score, you reach that indicator. They're no longer going to use that. They'll be looking at performance index score, meaning the number of kids scoring limited, basic, proficient, accelerated, advanced. That's going to be a heavy measure of the new report card, but that'll come out in September for this school year. course, we just got done with a lot of the testing that is used, that data is used in that report card that comes out in the fall. Marilyn already talked about the Office of Nutrition. I don't see, unless Congress grants a waiver, I don't know if that's going to happen. That's up to the U.S. Congress. State testing was a success. It went very well, so hats off to all the building test administrators, counselors, administration, teachers. Mark Thomas is our district test coordinator. We had very, very few problems, which was a relief. Graduation is May 29th, 2 p.m. I know Mr. McNamara, the senior class advisor, has emailed the board and sent an invitation out, hoping you can attend that. Right now, we got a lot going on to wrap up the year. It's a busy few weeks. AP and final exams at the high school. We got field day at the elementary school, relay for life at the middle school. The middle school also did a Rule 3 Rewards Day. The high school will be going to Gabriel Farms, which is an annual Diane and Arnie Gabriel. Diane worked here. Arnie was on the board for a long time. They live in the Circleville area. They have the kids that have academic achievement, attendance, and behavior that are rewarded. They get to go out to their farm and kind of fish and have a cookout for the day, and they can get in a canoe and play volleyball and different things, but that's kind of coming up here too. Went up to the FFA State Convention on May 5th. It was also held May 6th, and we had a state officer, Braden Huffman, speaking at the state convention, but it was really good to see. This is the first time in 2 years that the state FFA convention was held. There's probably over 9,000 students up there from around the state that are involved in FFA programs, but it was well done. It's entirely put on by the members of the FFA, the students, and they did a really good job. Senior nights have been taking place for spring sports. Some have already taken place with tennis and softball. I think baseball's coming up this week. So, congratulations to our seniors for a good season. Besides that, tons of hiring and transfers. I think I've had 29 different positions. The board approved, I think we had 5 or 6 new positions, but the dominoes start and you get a few retirements and people start transferring people that have some interest in different positions. So it's just been crazy trying to keep track of all the hiring and transfers. And last but not least, I want to recognize Bloom Carroll High School for being recognized by the U.S. News and World Report. The criteria used in that U.S. News and World Report is a little misleading. They use reading and math proficiency from state standardized tests. They also include a college readiness a measure. But what I find interesting is they only use AP test results, which we have plenty of AP courses and International Baccalaureate courses, but they do not include College Credit Plus, even though it's a college readiness, the number of kids participating in College Credit Plus and earning decent grades. But Bloom Carroll High School was in the top 16% in the state and nationally. There's over 23,000 high schools. We're in the 3,000s, the way they measure that, and performed very well in Central Ohio as well. So just a lot going on, but that's my update for you. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's move on to 9B under students and programs. Want to approve an out-of-state overnight trip for the marching band to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, August 16th and 17th, 2022, to appear in the 72nd Fall Fantasy Parade at Kennywood Park, pending receipt of itinerary and the certificate of liability. Number 2, approve a trip to the Ohio FFA camp in Carrollton, Ohio, for approximately 18 Bloom Carroll FFA students from June 6th through the 10th, 2022, to be chaperoned by Christy Bachman. Number 3, approve the following summer camps and closures for 2022, which include overnight trips as indicated in bold print. Teams will be accompanied by their respective coaches and parent chaperones for overnight trips, pending mandated background checks for volunteers. As presented, A through I, with overnight camps taking place with girls basketball at Marietta College, volleyball at Friendship Cup down in Mason, and the high school cross-country team in Marengo at the Heartland Retreat Center. And the gym closures will be July 5th through the 10th to refinish the gym floors.
Perfect. I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Jimmy Johnson, seconded by Mr. Joe Abbott.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson, Mrs. Sherman.
Yes.
9C, approve the substitute list number 7 for May of 2022 as submitted by the Fairfield County Educational Service Center. Number 2, approve the voluntary transfer of Jennifer Harrison to middle school intervention specialist and general education teacher effective with the 2022-23 school year. Number 3, approve the employment of Ryan Davis as middle school, high school math teacher on an initial sequence 1-year limited contract at step 10 with a bachelor's degree with 150 semester hours, pending timely receipt of verifications and background checks, and effective with the 2022-23 school year. Number 4, approve the employment of Caitlin Keltenegger as an elementary school intervention specialist on an initial sequence 1-year limited contract at step 6 with a master's degree plus 15 semester hours, pending timely receipt of verifications and background checks, and effective with the 2022-23 school year. Number 5, approve the employment of Shawnee Corwin as a 4-hour per day middle school cook on a 1-year limited contract at step 0 effective with the 22-23 school year. Number 6, approve the employment of Amy Roby as a 2.5-hour per day middle school lunchroom monitor on a 1-year limited contract at step 0 effective with the 22-23 school year. Number 7, approve the employment of Angela Behringer as a 2.75-hour per day elementary school lunchroom monitor on a 1-year limited contract at step 0 effective with the 22-23 school year. Number 8, approve the employment of Laura Barrett as a 2.75-hour per day elementary school lunchroom monitor on a 1-year limited contract at step 0 effective with the 22-23 school year. Number 9, approve the employment of Daniel Wampler as a 2.75-hour per day elementary school lunchroom monitor on a 1-year limited contract at step 0 effective with the 22-23 school year. Number 10, approve the employment of Rachel Woolley as a 2.75-hour per day elementary school lunchroom monitor on a 1-year limited contract at step 0 effective with the 22-23 school year, pending the acceptance of agenda item 9F3. Number 11, approve Mariah Storts for up to 40 hours per week, June 6th through the 10th, 2022, and up to 24 hours per week, June 13th, 2022 through July 29th, 2022 for training at the registrar hourly rate. Number 12, approve Mary Ford for 2 extended days to assist in closing the middle school library. Number 13, approve amending the job description for school nurse. Number 14, approve the following request for FMLA leave of absence for Leah Cheek beginning August 18th, 2022 for up to 60 days. And number 15, approve the following request for an unpaid leave or dock days as presented A through F. Number 16, approve the following request for home instructors for the 21-22 school year at the tutor hourly rate as listed A through D. Number 17, approve the following summer intervention program instructors at the tutor hourly rate as listed A through G. And number 18, approve the employment of the following classified substitutes for the remainder of the 21-22 school year and the 22-23 school year for Rebecca Mosher and Anna Marie Sheets. Number 19, approve the employment of the following previously retired certificated employees on a 1-year limited contract for the 22-23 school year, and that would be for Bruce Olson, high school math teacher. Number 20, approve the employment of the following certificated employees on a 1-year initial sequence limited contract for the 22-23 school year. And your Group A, your second 1-year contracts as presented 1 through 8. Part B, the third 1-year contract as listed 1 through 4. And the fourth 1-year contracts as listed 1 through 6. Number 21, approve the employment of the following certificated employees on an extended sequence limited contract beginning with the 22-23 school year, and those would be your 2-year contracts as listed 1 through 3, and then your 5-year contracts for certificated employees would be as listed 1 through 9. Number 22, approve the employment of the following certificated employees on a continuing contract in accordance with the negotiated agreement and the Ohio Revised Code requirements, beginning with the 22-23 school year for James McNamara. Number 23, approve the employment of the following previously retired classified employee on a second 2-year limited contract for the 22-23 school year for Brian Heisel. Number 24, approve the employment of the following classified employees on a 2-year limited contracts beginning with the 22-23 school year. And your first 2-year people are employees as listed 1 through 14. Your second 2 years as listed 1 through 6. And from section C, your third 2-year contracts as listed 1 through 8. Number 25, approve the following administrative contract extensions as listed A through H. These are all 3-year contracts. Number 26, approve the placement of the following employees on the administrative supervisor salary schedule as listed, A through K. 27, approve the following athletic supplemental contracts for the 22-23 school year, pending receipt of verifications and background checks as listed A through K. 28, approve the following athletic department volunteers for the 22-23 school year, pending timely receipt of all verifications and background checks for Zach Longstreet and Ron Ireland. Number 29, approve the list of school volunteers for the 21-22 school year, pending receipt of background checks. And from the addendum, approve the voluntary transfer of Shauna Williams to middle school, high school nurse effective with the 2022-23 school year and pending acceptance of agenda item 9F2. We got a vote. It's a busy time of year. It's hard. I got a spreadsheet. I'm trying to keep track of everybody. So, yeah, we got a lot of personnel changes in contracts. It's that time of year. We do it every year.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Joe Abbott, second by Mr. Bratton.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes. All right. 9D, contracts and agreements. Approve the partnership with the Fairfield County Commissioners for an application for the Ohio Brownfield Remediation Program funding. Any questions on that? We covered it in the last meeting, maybe?
Yeah, we covered it, but that application's huge.
Yeah, yeah, Pandy Environmental, they do a lot of grant application writing, and that part cannot be paid for out of the grant that we could potentially get awarded, but that small investment could save us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I think we'll get the grant.
Yeah, that'd be great.
When will you know?
I think the third round, we could apply for the third round too if we needed to, but I think it's sometime in the middle of this summer. The next deadline will be September 30th. They extended this deadline 1 month, so it was April 30th, now it's May 30th. I think sometime in June, early July, we'll find out. But if that's the case, we will have to, in the fall, we'll have to start planning and bring in some environmental companies that do abatement and get a schedule together for next summer to do that. So,
I'll make the motion. Second.
Motion made by Rod Johnson, second by Mr. Bratton.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
all right, 9E, nothing under other. Under 9F, resignations and retirements. Accept the resignation of Gail Poling, high school custodian with 29 years of service to the district, effective May 30th, 2022. Number 2, accept the resignation of Nicole Bigham, middle school, high school nurse with 9 years of service to the district, contingent upon board approval by the Pickaway Ross Career and Technology Center, effective at the end of the 22-23 school year. Number 3, accept the resignation of Hillary Stokes, elementary school lunchroom monitor, effective at the end of the 22-23 school year.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Quick question, so Nicole's gonna stay through?
Yeah, it's her new position. She lives in Circleville.
Right.
Her kids go to Circleville schools. The Pickaway Ross Career and Technical Center is about 15 minutes down 23.
Right.
And she, honestly, you're dealing with 2 grades and fewer schools, fewer number of students. It's a good position, and she's done a great job for us, and so has Gail, and, you know, we certainly, we'll miss both of them, but, Gail was hoping to hang on till this summer, and there's just an issue that, he just felt like now was the right time, so it'll give us a little bit of time to get that position posted and get somebody hired for the summer. But, yeah, both Nicole will be finishing, and Gail is finished, May 30th. He had some sick leave that he could
Mhm.
take, so he'll be using some sick leave.
I think what he's saying, it is worded a little, it's effective for, at the end of this year.
Okay,
At the-
I just saw the 2023.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like.
I'm sorry.
So we should probably read that in.
Yeah, let me, effective at the end of the 21-22 school year. Yeah, we missed
For
that.
both of them, right?
For Nicole is effective at the end of the year.
Same
Gail's- Gail-
as number 3 as well, yeah.
Yeah,
For both for next year.
Heather
This year.
Stokes, 21-22,
Good catch, Joe.
yeah,
I'm just paying attention.
yeah.
Any further discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Joe Abbott, second by Mrs. Jen Sherman.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Yes.
All right, Jimmy, back to you.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Number 10, new business. I think, don't have anything. Sean's kept us up to date on that. Number 11, board reports and information. Board of Education liaison updates, facility management. Mr. Abbott, Mr. Johnson.
We have a PTO meeting, was it the 18th?
19th.
At 1.
The PTO was, they had reached out, they have done well with their sales and fundraising, and they would like to work with the principals out there and maybe discuss some capital improvements, you know, some ideas. We'll see what ideas they come up with and the principals come up with, but at the elementary school PTO, would like to see if there's anything else they can do. They reached out to me and said the building was very well planned, the students and staff, they haven't needed much, so they're sitting on some funds, and they'd like to see if there's some things they could do around the grounds, that the students and staff could benefit from, so. Have some ideas, but I wanna listen to some things that they bring up, and then we would bring that to the board, of course.
Great. Personnel and labor management, Mr. Bratton, Mr. Johnson. There's a meeting tomorrow afternoon, I believe.
For, that is safety, health, and
Oh,
wellness,
sorry,
yeah.
OSBA representative,
No updates?
policy.
Just approved or
Yeah,
last reading?
should have a new, PDQ coming out later this month. They've been late for some reason, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's early June, but we should have a new stack of policies. Hopefully it's not too big.
Safety, health, and wellness. There is a meeting tomorrow.
There you go.
That's the one you're attending.
I'm gonna try to.
We're gonna celebrate Mr. Peltier tomorrow. He's been the chair of our wellness committee, I think, since its inception,
Yeah.
and he is retiring. So we meet a couple times a year, discuss different concerns, you know, with the staff and some representatives, but, Mr. Peltier is retiring, so we're gonna have to replace him on that, as that committee chair, so. I don't know if you guys know Mr. Peltier, but he's extremely healthy and fit, and, so we're gonna celebrate with a veggie tray,
Nice.
so, tomorrow.
I like it.
Yeah.
Number 6, finances. Mr. Bratton, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, we just met, and I just saw the 5-year forecast, Travis just went over, so I think we're good for a couple of months.
B, upcoming PTO Booster Board of Education meetings. May 10th, Wellness Committee meeting, 2:30, we just discussed. Middle School PTO, 2:30 PM on 510 Blue Carroll Middle School Media Center. May 10th, Music Boosters at 6:30 PM at Blue Carroll High School Media Center. May 10th, Elementary PTO at 6:30 PM, Blue Carroll Elementary Cafeteria. 5/18, High School PTO at 7 PM, Blue Carroll High School Cafeteria. I'm gonna add in there just a reminder, 5/29, graduation, 2 PM here at the middle school. May 30th, Memorial Day, no school. June 2nd, last day of school, 2-hour early dismissal. June 3rd, teacher workday. June 13th, Board of Education regular meeting, 6 p.m., Bloom Carroll Middle School Media Center. And June 13th, athletic boosters at 7 p.m. at the Bloom Carroll Middle School cafeteria. Number 12.
Yeah, the teacher workday, in the morning, we have that staff gathering, the end of year
Oh, yeah.
celebration. All of you are welcome to attend.
Yeah, what day is that,
It'll
the third?
Start at 8 a.m.
Yeah, it's the third, yeah.
and we should be done. We should be starting the awards by 8:45. Probably be done by 9:30 if you want to stop by
Definitely.
at the elementary school cafeteria.
All right, number 12, adjourn from regular session and go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or states of statutes. Can I get a motion, please?
Excuse me, so,
Second.
Who's the motion?
Motion made by Jen Sherman,
thanks.
seconded by Joe Abbott.
Mrs. Sherman?
yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes. Time is 6:56.
All right.
Yeah, you're kicking us out.